All right, we're good to go. Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Ryan Grissett with Colette Vacations. Just glad to be here and partnering with Shepard on this trip to Portugal for next spring. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on Colette, and then I will go over the tour. And then there's a couple of housekeeping items at the end, just kind of some of the other inclusions that come along with the tour and some important dates. So with that, I am the regional director of sales in the Southeast. So my territory spans from the DC, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia area, all the way down through Florida, Georgia, and Alabama, and Mississippi. But I've been with Colette for about 11 years. Started off as a sales rep, and now I'm now I manage a couple of sales reps. But and I actually did this tour back in 2016. 15 or 16. My memory's not as good as it once was, but we are a private family-owned company based out of Pawtucket, Rhode Island, started in 1918. And we've been doing tours. We originally started out as a little travel agency / tour operator. And through the years, we've expanded into a global tour operator who does tours that range from 5 days all the way up to 30 on all 7 continents. So couple of things that you can expect when you're touring with us. It's going to be a 4-star, 4 stars across the board. That's hotels, attractions, meals, transportation. Everything's going to be 4 stars. Our product team does a really remarkable job on designing tours for the folks that are going on them, knowing who our demographic is, and designing them accordingly. And we rely very heavily on feedback from the folks that go on our tours so that we can make improvements on those tours. With that being said, I think they do a great job of the pacing. They know when we need to have some time off, whether it be a half day, a full day, or just a couple of hours. And they've relied on a lot of feedback over the years from people that have gone on these trips. And I think they do a really good job. Sunny Portugal has not been changed in the last 7 or 8 years because it's been working. The only things that we've really, unless it's a small hotel tweak, but they have added a couple of extensions on at the end that I think are fantastic. And I'll touch on those towards the latter part of the presentation. And just to kind of wrap up before I get into the actual tour, we believe very heavily in impacting the areas positively that we visit. We have our own foundation at Colette that's employee run, and we feel very privileged to be able to give back to certain areas of the world. And on some tours that we take, there's some impact touring that we'll be able to, we visit orphanages or we partner with schools. There's some band performances, there's visits to little villages. It's a way for us to give back to we get to go on these vacations and on these guided tours, but it's a definite way for us to give back to the areas that we visit. So with that being said, one last note before I get into Portugal, because I think it really defines what you can expect when you get on tour. This tour is entirely guided. So you'll have a tour manager with you from the beginning until the end, and that tour manager is with you. They're staying at the same hotels. They're eating at the same restaurants. They're checking you into these hotels and attractions. They're with you the entire time, and they're a tremendous resource. They're going to be very well versed in art, architecture, history, culture, local, little souvenirs and keepsakes that you want to bring back with you, all the way down to making recommendations when you do have that free time. If you want recommendations, we have a lot of folks that go on these tours and they plan out their free time on their own. We have others that are looking for some recommendations. So that's the beauty of traveling with a tour manager, is that they're with you that entire time, and they're a tremendous resource. And that, quite frankly, they have a good feel on when they need to talk if you're on a long drive, or when they need to let people take naps. So I've always respected that about our tour managers. With that being said, we're offering, this tour is called Sunny Portugal. It's 10 days, includes 12 meals. And it's a tour, as I mentioned earlier, has not been tweaked other than some small adjustments because it's been working for us. I think Portugal really has been overshadowed by Spain from a tourism standpoint. And they started around 2013-14 to really invest heavily in marketing as far as becoming a real tremendous tourism spot, and they've done really well. And you have the Azores, which are some Portuguese islands, as well as Madeira off the coast, which pair very well with mainland Portugal. And I'll just give you a 30,000-foot view. This trip, we're planning on going out of Dulles. If we can, we'll typically, if we can grab direct flights, we met with some folks in person last week. If we grab direct flights from Dulles into Lisbon, we do so. If not, some of the bigger airline hubs, TAP is typically one of it's the Portuguese airline. They go out of Newark, JFK, and Boston, and sometimes Dulles. So as we get into the spring, I'll be eager to see what those flight schedules are. But this tour starts and ends in Lisbon. We will do an overnight flight, which is any tour going to Europe. You're gonna leave the US in the latter part of the afternoon, early evening, and arrive in Europe in the early morning, which I think is extremely advantageous, because then you have the rest of that day to explore. And we start off in a place called Cascais, which is just a little bit west of Lisbon, and it has a tremendous flair. It's right on the water. It's a great place to have some free time to start off this tour. So we'll do 3 nights in Cascais. We do the day 5 in that evening in Évora, which is a little bit to the east. And then the next 3 nights will be in the Algarve, which is the southern portion of Portugal, along the Portuguese Riviera. And then we'll wind up back in Lisbon to conclude the tour. And then one of the options, as you can see in the picture there, is a post tour extension into Madeira for 3 nights, and you would fly from Lisbon over to Madeira. And I'll touch on that briefly at the end. Just to get into the tour, all these pictures are from Colette, from our tours, whether it be from folks that are on the tours with us, our employees, or our marketing department. These are all pictures that were taken from the vantage points of the tour. I did not rip these off of Google and put them into a PowerPoint for these presentations. And I think Portugal speaks for itself as far as beauty goes. But these pictures, in my opinion, do not do it justice, because it is absolutely gorgeous. We'll start in Cascais, just a neat little coastal town. We do a welcome dinner. That'll be at the end of day 2. So you'll do your overnight flight. We'll get in early. If we can get you into the hotel, we do so. If not, the tour manager will say, hey, the rooms will be ready in 2 hours or an hour. That swing back, but they'll hold your luggage. You can go out and explore a little bit, come back. A lot of times we're able to get right in those rooms. Now, when you are going to Europe, I typically recommend not going into your room and going to sleep during the afternoon if you haven't been able to sleep on the plane. If you can make it through the day and go to sleep after this welcome dinner, then you'll be set up for the remaining 8 days of this particular tour. Any tour to Europe, that is the principle. So, and then here's a couple of shots. This is the Alfama district. This day 3, is we're going to embark on a panoramic tour of Lisbon, an amazing city, the capital city of Portugal. It's lined with cobblestone streets, narrow walkways, but it also kind of opens up. It's along a river, and I'll show you a couple of pictures coming up that will highlight that. But just a neat cultural city to start a tour off in, and we'll do a panoramic tour. And it's built. Lisbon is actually built into the 7 hills which surround it, so it makes for a beautiful backdrop on that city. This is the Belém Tower. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Portugal has quite a few UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and if you're not familiar with those are basically it's an organization that highlights and protects certain sites throughout the world, and it could be buildings. There's a few areas, and there's also a few towns that UNESCO protects throughout the world. And our product team does an amazing job of incorporating UNESCO World Heritage Sites into our tours. But this has functioned throughout the years as a couple of different things. It was a tower that was built in the 1500s, sits along that Tagus River, the river I mentioned a few minutes ago. And it's a monument, quite frankly, to the discoveries that sit along the Tagus River. So, in a minute, I'll get into a little bit of the Portugal and the Brazilian relationship, and a lot of that has to do tags with the discovery of the Portuguese throughout the rest of the world. This is a monastery that we'll visit, dates all the way back to the 16th century. This is the outside. You see those blue skies, but the architecture, particularly in Europe, just amazes me. And that this dates back to the 16th century really shows you the care and the detail that they put into their architecture. And there are, I mean, quite frankly, a lot of the buildings in Europe are artwork, in my opinion. They're absolutely gorgeous. But look at the inside of this. This is built 5 centuries ago. They didn't have the machinery and the scaffolding that we have today, so it took them a little bit more time when they're erecting structures like this. So, but this is a fascinating little monastery that we'll visit. And then back to Cascais, we're there for those 3 nights. One thing I do like to point out, and I pointed out this to the group last week, if you'll see the bottom portion of this, you'll see some designs in those sidewalks. That's throughout Portugal, particularly in Lisbon, Cascais, the cities that we go in. There's such, and they have such an overwhelming supply of limestone and volcanic rock that the government of Portugal, and particularly the city of Lisbon, decided that it would be in their best work to actually transfer some of that into the sidewalks. And I took more pictures of sidewalks on this trip than I care to remember, but it's because they're absolutely gorgeous, different designs. And as you can see, and you'll probably see in a couple of pictures coming up, and it's quite frankly, it's one of their trademarks, and I find it fascinating. So you'll see that throughout this trip in the different places that we visit. This night, there is an option. It's called Lisbon by Night, includes a fado performance, which is a blend of voice and guitar. And it's one of the things that we truly believe on tour is we want it to promote cultural immersion. You're going outside of the United States to visit a different part of the world, and we truly believe that infusing this not only in the in the cuisine, in the meals that we eat, but also in some of the experiences. And you'll have them when we're visiting different places throughout. But there's also some experiences where you get to interact. This has extra dinner as well as some music, but interacting with the locals are some of my favorite memories on trips that I've been able to experience with Colette throughout the 11 years that I've been here. And then this is another day. It was one of my favorite on this particular trip. It includes 2 tremendous villages. I call them villages. This is more of a village. Sintra is more of a town, which I'm going to get into next. But this is the walled city of Óbidos, and it's a small town located a little bit north of Cascais and Lisbon. It's a walled city. As you can see right there, you can actually walk the perimeter. There's some very neat shops and little cafes inside the city walls, but I found it amazing just to walk the perimeter for a little while, and you get almost a 360-degree view of the Portuguese countryside. And I will tell you, it reminded me quite a bit of the Tuscan region of Italy. Looking out and you see the different olives and the fruit trees, it's quite remarkable. So great experience. After that, we're going to head over to Sintra. Sintra is a town that was a favorite summer retreat of quite a few Portuguese kings throughout about 6 centuries. And this town wraps around a hill, and at the top is the castle that overlooks the Atlantic. So it's a neat experience. We're going to be there for a couple of hours, and this is where we have one of our we call it option on tour. This is something choice on tour. I mean, my apologies. It's choice on tour. Wherever you see this little V in the road. And in this one, this is included. So the other one would be a little bit more the Lisbon by Night. This is an option that's included. You can either have free time in Sintra, or we take you to the top of that hill if you don't want to walk it, and we do a tour of the National Palace. So I think this is fascinating. I quite frankly would probably prefer to dive a little bit deeper into that palace, but there's some others that would enjoy some free time to do some shopping or people watching or just kind of exploring. I know there's a lot of photographers that go on our tour, or amateur or professional, quite frankly, that go on our tour, and they love to go and explore these cities and get pictures. So I could make the argument on both ways, but me personally, I'd probably go with the palace. I thought it was absolutely gorgeous. So just a little bit, and there's a shot of the city that kind of wraps around those hills, and then there's another shot of the palace. So with that being said, we're going to wrap up in Cascais, and then this is a little shot of the water along the coast. The Silver Coast is what it's known. And then we're going to head out and head to the central part of Portugal. And along the way, we're going to make a visit in this little town, which is a village that's known, quite frankly, all of Portugal is known for cork, but this is a village where we're going to make a little stop to see one of their national exports, cork, which is also known as sombrero. And I was telling the group last week that in Sintra is a great place to get cork. They have every cork product imaginable. And I was telling them that one of my colleagues at the time bought his wife a cocktail dress made of cork, which she never wore, but it was a great conversation piece. So it's still as honest as I can be. It's still in their closet. It's never been worn, but it's quite fascinating. But they have the vast majority of the cork in this world comes from Portugal. So wine bottles, just different products that have to do with cork. And they have some amazing I mean, there's coasters, keychains, the aforementioned cocktail dress. It's all coming from there, but there's some great little gifts to bring back for yourself or for family and friends. With that, we'll visit Evora. This entire area is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's one of the most, it's a absolutely gorgeous town, dating all the way back to the 14th century is when they built the walls around this city. So it's neat. We get some contrasting architecture from what you saw thus far in Lisbon and Cascais. And we move into the central part, and it's a university town as well. So you probably something very similar to Shepherdstown, quite frankly. But with that being said, it's just a quick couple of things that we'll see along the way. And this is actually a Roman temple that was to Diana back in the 16th century. You'll still be able to see the outer shell of that temple while we're in Evora. And this is just, as I mentioned earlier, outside of Óbidos, this is not rare. This is a lot of the countryside looks just like this. It's gorgeous, wide open farms. That's what they're known for. And it's quite frankly, it's one of the southwesternmost portions of Europe. So the weather and the climate in this area is absolutely perfect for growing certain things: olives, fruit, grapes for wine. The wineries have been popping up over the last probably 7 to 8 years in the country of Portugal, and they've capitalized on that. So with that, this is Monsaraz. This is another portion of as we head south, a little town that we'll visit, and then we make our way in. Look at it, just absolutely, the whitewashed is something that's consistent throughout these whitewashed buildings, and they pop, and you'll see the blues and the reds. It's quite unique when it comes to their architecture. And then this is Lagos. So as we get into the Algarve, dates all the way back to the famous explorer and voyager, Prince Henry the Navigator. And this is one of the spots where he began his exploration. So obviously right on the water. This is Lagos. And this next picture is one of my favorites. We have a little bit of downtime. This is what the Portuguese Riviera is known for. I mean, you think about the Portuguese, the French, the Italian Rivieras, perfect places to vacation. And we're here for a couple of days, and we do have some free time. And quite frankly, the middle to latter part of May is a great time to be there, whether you're just on tour or when you do have some downtime to explore and enjoy the beaches of the Portuguese Riviera. So one other option we have is we have a coastal cruise along the Algarve. Get to see some of the areas, and look at this next shot. Look at that. That's not a bad spot right on the Atlantic there. So, and then we'll wrap up. This is Faro. Before we start to head back north, we'll spend 3 nights down along the Portuguese Riviera, and we'll have a couple of winery visits. This actually is one of the older areas, and it was built in the 9th century. So it's amazing how far back and the older the centuries that go by, that Europe is one of my favorite places, because not only do you get the scenery, but the history, the architecture, and they do such a tremendous job of preserving it. I mean, this city dates back to the 9th century, which is remarkable when you think about how young of a country we are in the United States. We'll wrap up. We have a nice little tasting before we head back up to Lisbon. And then one of the stops on the way will be to Vera. So another little coastal town. And then this is right along, and it's this city actually straddles this river. Giglio is the river. And then we'll head north, one more shot of Lagos. And the reason I bring this up before we head back to Lisbon is I mentioned this. These are tremendous keepsake. This area, Azieto, is known for these tiles. And I bought quite a few, and they're hanging in my office downstairs, which my wife has commandeered. I'm now upstairs throughout the pandemic, or I would show you. I probably should have brought them up. They're hanging downstairs. I should have grabbed a couple. I didn't think of it before I was doing this. But these are glazed ceramic tiles. It's one of the items that they're known for. You'll see some of these throughout some of the cathedrals we visit, some of the museums, some of the main government buildings. These are small little tiles, but they also are made into mosaics that are some of the artwork that Lisbon and Portugal are known throughout as great keepsakes or to take with you back home. And I want to say I bought about almost a dozen of them, and they were great Christmas gifts, by the way. With that, we have a farewell dinner back in Lisbon. And then one thing there's 2 extensions that can be added, one on before and one after. And they're to 2 unbelievable regions of Portugal. There is a pre-tour extension that would go in 5 days earlier to Porto, which is the northern region of Portugal. It's 5 days, includes 4 meals. And you're gonna get to experience some of the Douro River Valley, which is to the north. We actually have a river cruise that is up in that area, and that has increased, quite frankly, tenfold over the course of the last couple of years, because it's a neat little area. So we do a pre-tour for the Porto region, and then we do a post-tour that you could add on out to Madeira, which is an island out in the Atlantic. The subtropical climate, perfect to go during the latter part of May, which is when that particular extension would be going. The Porto region, you would get there by motor coach. Or motor coach would bring you after you fly in, motor coach up to Porto, come back. The Madeira extension would be, we wrap up in Lisbon, and then you would fly out to Madeira for 5 days. That's probably about an hour and 40 minute flight on the way out. But it's just, and you'll see, I had a close-up picture that I had last week, but these are man-made little lagoons, almost just overlooking the water, and you'll see they're absolutely gorgeous. But just to wrap up, and then I'll open up to any questions. We do incorporate a hometown pickup, and I think that Katie and Hannah had probably sent out the PDFs of the flyers that have everything in it. But we will pick the group up. We take you down to Dulles for this particular flight. If you go in early for the extension or on your own, or you stay late for the extension, or you stay on your own, we will still pick you back up at Dulles and bring you back, even if you go in before or come back after the tour group. That's included. One of the things that I'm a massive advocate for is is we have a cancellation waiver and travel insurance that are paired together, and ours allows you to cancel for any reason up to the day before the tour leaves and receive all of your money back in cash. We joke internally that it's a bad hair day policy, but it truly is. You can cancel for any reason up to the day before the tour leaves and receive all of your money back in cash, minus the travel, the trip insurance and cancellation waiver costs, which I'll go over in 1 second. Then once you're on tour, it converts over into travel insurance, and that travel insurance includes accident, sickness, trip interruptions, travel delays, trip cancellations, lost luggage, medevac, theft. Everything is covered under that. Most of the folks that travel with us, a lot of them are Medicare, which does not cover you outside of the United States. This would be your supplementary policy. Private health insurance, a lot of it does not cover you outside of the United States. This would also be your your supplementary coverage. And you might have a hybrid of that, depending upon what form of health insurance you're on. The key is, this is going to supplement that to help make you whole again. But the other advantage is if you would have to leave the trip early for a medical reason or an emergency, this is going to offset the days that you lost while you're on the tour. So to me, it's better to have this and not need it than need it and not have it. I could parade 200 people through this Zoom presentation over the 11 years that I've been doing this that have had to use this in the Southeast. And it's just one of those things. You take it. Hopefully we don't have to use any portion of it. That means you went, you're healthy, you're happy, you had a good time on the tour. But for those that do need it, this is where this steps in. And TripMate is the company that underwrites that for us. And they've been a great partner of ours as long as I've been here. I think we've partnered with them for about 12 to 13 years on our travel insurance. So it's a tremendous policy. And you get a copy of that before a couple of weeks. We send out documents to everyone that's going, and you get a copy of that policy a couple of weeks before you depart. Last couple items, and I'll open up if there are any questions. Anytime that anyone travels with us, they're automatically given $150 to use off a trip that's within 12 months. It's good for 2 years, though. It becomes $100 off if you take a trip with us 13 to 24 months after your last tour with us. Passport, you do need a passport on this tour. The reason I bring this up is that it says 8 months on there. The official State Department time is 6. We kind of go with a little bit of overkill just to make sure people understand. When you're signing up for trips, you want to make sure that your passport is good for a minimum of 6 months after you return. So in this case, this trip goes from May 14th through the 23rd of May. You want to make sure that your passport does not expire prior to November 23rd of next year. If it does, you want to get working on that sooner rather than later. The conversations I've had over the last couple of weeks is it's taken the passport offices around 18 to 22 weeks because of the pandemic to get renewals back to people. So don't want anyone to have to expedite it. I've had that happen before, but if you don't have to, take care of it now. It should be here with plenty of time to spare if you have to work on that now. You can still sign up to go on the trip. You just want to make sure that, whatever name that you're utilizing or however you're signing up for your name on your passport to renew it is the same one that you're gonna sign up for the tour. So for instance, if your existing passport has first, middle, and a last name entirely spelled out, but you're going to change it to just your initial, please let us know that when you're signing up for the tour. Airlines have realized that they can make quite a bit of revenue from name changes on airplane tickets. So don't be a part of that. And just to wrap up, with some important dates, we're holding this space for the alumni until November 15th. So as long as you sign up and deposit before November 15th, there's a couple $100 early booking bonus, air booking early booking bonus. That's good as long as you deposit by November 15th. Final payments are due by March 15th. So you can make your deposit and insurance by November 15th. The remaining balance would be due by March 15th. The tour dates are May 14th through the 23rd. And just to give you a couple other items, they're kind of spread out on that PDF that Hannah and Katie might have sent out to you. The deposit's $600, and if you're taking the insurance, it's $399. So $999 per person to save a seat, and then the remaining balance would be due by March 15th. With that, that is all I have. Are there any questions that anyone has on the trip, on Portugal, or current events? Anything? I was that thorough. Well, I appreciate it.
Hey, I just want to let you know I put in to get my passport and I just got it this week. So I got
Nice.
mine and then Liam got his. So it seemed, we got ours fast,
Quicker.
but I think that was an anomaly,
Yeah.
So
It's been pretty brutal over the last couple of months. So that you got those back early is kudos, Matt. That's great. So, but that's about all I have. Is there any other questions? All right. Well, what I'll do is I'll probably get this recording, Katie and Hannah, in probably about 45 minutes to an hour. It's been varying. As soon as I get it all forwarded over to you, and and if there's any questions that pop up after, you guys know how to get a hold of me. So.
Yeah, of course. If anybody thinks of anything, just reach out to myself or Hannah. Our emails are on are on the Alumni Association website, as well as our phone numbers. Feel free to send us a message or give us a call, and we'll make sure we get the answers to your questions. And yeah, we're excited to do another trip with Colette.
Good deal. Well, I appreciate it. I hope you guys all have a great evening, and we'd love to have you in Portugal. So have a great evening, and if you need me, just Katie and Hannah will track me down. So
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Ryan.
thanks, Matt. Good to
Thank
see you again.
you.
Good to see you, Katie and Hannah. Thanks, Melissa. Have a good evening.
You too.